Good morning, welcome to Cervello Live. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. Hope your Thursday morning's going really well so far. I'm Chris Dames. I'm one of the directors of Cervello Financial Planning. We've got a action-packed, I don't know if action-packed is the right word, to be honest, but we've got a show packed with hopefully some really good knowledge to share, some really good information, and an amazing guest. I'd like to welcome Helen to the show. Hi, Helen. How are you?
Morning. I'm good, thank you, Chris.
Amazing, great stuff. Good to speak to you. We're going to interview you later on, and frankly, I need as much help as I can get when it comes to home education. So part of the reason for inviting you on is a little bit selfish, but tell our audience a little bit about you.
Yeah. So I initially worked as a tax consultant when I graduated with PricewaterhouseCoopers, but having done 2 years with them, decided on a career change and actually ended up meeting up with one of my old teachers who I'd kept in touch with, saying I was thinking about making the change. Very shortly found myself offered a job at my previous school where I retrained as a maths teacher.
Okay.
Initially. And then because of my previous career experience, when one of the deputy heads found out about a new financial education qualification, I was approached to see if that was something I might be interested in introducing to school. So in 2004, I started teaching the Year 12 Certificate in Financial Studies by the London Institute of Banking and Finance. And essentially that was the start of my financial education career. And I've worked up to leading financial studies at 2 different secondary schools in Northamptonshire.
Okay, interesting. So the London Institute of Banking and Finance, we've done some work in that area because there is a online remote course that you can do through the LIBF, isn't there? That can be used like an e-course that can be used in schools as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's the life certificate. I was actually involved with writing some of the maths content for that. So
amazing.
I'm familiar with that qualification. That's been really interesting to see the number of different institutions that course is actually been used with, so not just within schools, but in other settings where young people can access financial education.
Great stuff, and we're going to be talking a lot more about that when we come to your interview. What I'm going to do first of all, and what we do on every Cervello Live, is I try and share some information that is going to be useful, particularly at the current time when potentially you might have a bit more time on your hands and you're thinking about your future and your financial future and how those two things interact. And one of the things you might be spending a bit more time doing is reading. Certainly, I am reading a lot more over the last couple of weeks. Now I've sort of shelved the commute time. I'm trying to make sure I use that time productively. So what I want to share with you is the books that I find massively useful when it comes to thinking about your financial plan and thinking about how to achieve your financial goals, but more importantly, how to link those to your life. So it's really important to make sure that you do that financial goals in isolation should be linked to what you want to achieve in your life. So there's a few unusual books in here that might help you plan effectively for your financial future. And it'd be interesting, Helen, as I'm going through these, let me know whether you've read these or not, or whether you've got your own tips to share. We are on Facebook Live. If you're watching live, feel free to comment. Feel free to ask any financial questions. We're here to help. So if we can, we will. And I've got my able assistant, Charlotte, looking at the live feed to make sure that we answer any questions that come up. So let's talk about the books that I think are really useful. The first one I love is a book called The Automatic Millionaire. Now, The Automatic Millionaire is a book about how to make sure that you've got good financial habits effectively automated in your life. One of the most powerful tips in this particular book is just the concept of automating longer term saving, because if you need to think about saving X amount every month to use in 20 or 30 years' time, odds are you won't do it. We're better at saving for our future self if we just automate it than we do. So certainly in my sort of longer term savings for my financial independence, one of the things that I do is make sure that at the start of every month, I've got X amount of pounds going out and I don't need to worry about it. And the Automatic Millionaire is full of really useful tips that effectively make that process of good financial well-being in the future an easier sort of process. Helen, have you read The Automatic Millionaire?
No, I must admit I haven't. It's an approach that I've seen sort of talked about in various areas. It sounds like a really good one. It sort of echoes an approach that I try to take myself. So yeah, I'd be interested in reading more about that being talked about.
Yeah, I mean the concept behind it's an interesting one because I'm a bit of a fan of social psychology, and there's a really good book called the Marshmallow Test, and it's not one that I was planning on talking about today, and it just talks about how we can get habits in place that delay gratification. And have you ever heard of that study they did in Stanford in the 60s where they put a marshmallow in front of a 6-year-old and said you can eat that marshmallow now, but if you wait you can have 2 marshmallows. And there's an amazing video on YouTube where they've replicated that test, and the kids are picking it up and sniffing it and playing with it and doing everything they can do to delay gratification, apart from the ones who just picked it up and ate it. And that was a really good study. The second book that I want to talk about, and it's particularly pertinent in the current situation as we're all on lockdown, is a book, non-financial book called Factfulness. Now, that's written by a guy called Hans Rosling, and he talks about how a perception of the world and what we hear about the world in terms of news is normally instant and is happening now. But in actual fact, the world is getting better over the longer term. When you look at the longer term trends in almost every single measure. And the reason I mention this book, it's not a financial book, but the reason I mention this book is I think particularly when times are volatile and the news is particularly negative and what's happening at the minute is certainly tragic, sometimes we need to maintain a bit of longer term perspective. And Factfulness is one of the books that's helped me do that, not only now, but in the past. Helen, thoughts on Factfulness? Have you heard about that?
No, that's a new one for me. I've not heard of that one, but no, it sounds good.
Good. Really useful. And that Hans Rosling's TED Talk is amazing as well. He's not with us anymore, but he wrote this book a couple of years ago. But his son and his daughter continue his work, and it's really, really good. The next book that I've got is one of my personal favourites. It's called Happy Money. And Happy Money is not about actually saving money. It's about spending money to make you happy. Now, I've got a set of videos on the Cervello YouTube page or on the Cervello website that talks about this book in a bit more depth. But it talks about the fact that giving money to other people, spending money on experiences, spending money building memories, and the things that actually how we can spend money that enhance our overall well-being as opposed to just create anxiety. It's a really interesting insight into not only how we save, but also how we spend. One you've heard of, Helen?
No, that's another new one. That ties in really nicely with some of the work in the financial education lessons I do when students start to think about their priorities and maybe what they want to achieve and the differences between individuals coming out. So, yeah, that's definitely sounds like one I'll take a look at.
Well, and you know what? It's interesting. Our work as financial planners, people assume it's about products, but actually part of what we do is to try and enhance well-being. You know, it's about making sure that we're having those deep, meaningful conversations, not only about money, but also about life. And if we can support somebody to live a life that's happier, having a bit of more of a understanding of what the academics say about what makes us happy is normally quite useful. So that's why I absolutely love Happy Money, written by Elizabeth Dunn and Michael Newton, I think. And then the next one I've got is Wellbeing by Tom Rath and Jim Harter. same topic. It talks about the fact that well-being and financial well-being is really important, but you should also focus on the other elements of your life that actually create well-being. That includes community and health, and community, health, giving back, financial, and I can't remember the other one, but well-being is an amazing book that talks about the 5 components of living a happy life and living a contented life with good well-being. One you've heard of or read, Helen?
No, that's another new one as well, but sounds like good stuff.
Good stuff. So that's it for that. Then I just want to mention one book that I'm reading at the minute. I'm in a book, and I got this in a charity shop, and it's sat on my bookshelf for ages, and I've just picked it up recently. And it's called Dare to Be 100. It's about longevity. Now, interestingly, a lot of our clients, our typical clients are age 50 to 70 and are getting to a point where they're thinking about what the next stage of their life's going to be. And I'm getting a real insight from this book, written by an American doctor, Walter M. Baltz, and it talks about the component parts of what you should consider when you're approaching that stage of your life and thinking about the decisions you make. It's really interesting when we speak to clients about this, Helen, because I think retirement as a concept is, when we speak to our clients, one that's less attractive now than it used to be. And I think people are looking to continue to maintain relevance and continue to work doing what they love in that stage. So Dare to Be 100 is an amazing book. So give that a go, because that's certainly worth reading. Hopefully that was useful. We'll put the links to where you can find those books on the show notes, and certainly pick some of those up when you get the chance. Helen, I just want to talk a little bit to you and ask you a few questions. So you've told us a little bit about you. Help me understand what your day-to-day life looks like when we're not in lockdown.
So normally at school, I teach financial education to Key Stage 4 and Key Stage 5. So students start the LIBS certificate in financial education as one of their option choices, or they can choose to study it as one of their option choices at year 10, year 11 level. So I teach a class at that level, and then the bulk of my teaching this year has been at the year 12, year 13 level. So I've got a class in each of those year groups where they would continue with the LIBF courses, but at the next stage, at the level 3 point. So basically, my days at school are busy delivering lessons in those areas.
Right. And just help me understand. It sounds like your school in particular has really had a commitment to helping kids understand a little bit more about money. My experience has been that some schools are really into it, but there is a pressure on time and resources for teachers to deliver financial education, because it's included as part of a sort of a more overall life skills criteria. How and why has your school made financial education a priority?
I think initially, I was lucky enough to start teaching it because, as I say, this deputy head happened to attend a large teaching conference where she was made aware of it as a subject, and it was something that the senior leadership team were interested in launching. And then similarly, when I moved to the current school that I'm teaching at, they also wanted to have it as part of the curriculum offering for students. So one of the things that's really important, and why I think financial education can vary across different schools, is because it's very much down to the senior leadership team and the leaders in charge of curriculum deciding that they want to give financial education a slot, if you like, within the sort of curriculum offering. It's not something that they have to do on a statutory basis. Financial education is compulsory as part of personal social health education. It's also now used as a context in maths, but that's as far as schools have to go.
Yeah.
So any more work that is done, as I say, it's down to the priorities of the senior leadership team and teachers
Okay, so that moves on to my next question then. So why do you think financial education is so fundamentally important?
I think because it's got the potential to make such a significant impact on a young person's future security and their achievement of aspirations. And it's a subject that they find so interesting. And for all the years I've been teaching it, when I meet parents and I have discussions at options evening and parents' evenings, so often that parents will say to me, "Oh, I wish I could have done this," or "I didn't even know this was a subject." Um, it also provides an opportunity for so many of our young people to step into a rewarding career. Some of them choose to go down the sort of banking route or financial advising or accountancy, and they get the opportunity to develop a really valuable life skill for them, but at the same time as building a recognised qualification.
Yeah.
And one of the most important pieces of feedback that I received, we took part in a study by University of Edinburgh, and one of my classes was tracked over the 2 years that they studied their financial education courses at post-16 level. And when we took part in a focus group at the end of that, one of the students said that he felt he was in a much better position than his parents had been, because they'd been in a situation that they'd learned about financial matters and financial products by using them and making mistakes along the way. But then when he was starting out, he was going to be in a much stronger position because he didn't need to make the mistakes, because he'd done all this study and could therefore make informed decisions from the start.
You know what's
So
you know
I
what
think it's a fantastic thing to be able to help students to develop, this knowledge and this awareness that could be useful for them because of their career. But even if they're not going to go into something financial related, it's going to help them with some of the major milestones across their lives.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's really interesting one, because I fell into financial services when I was sort of in my late teens, early 20s. But I am massively grateful for having a career because of the lessons that it's taught me that I use in my own personal finance. It's just that you get the benefit of doing that, and that's when I was at school. That was something that wasn't taught. So it's certainly something that's really important. Can I just say a massive thank you as well for just making sure that, and I haven't got one in my video call, but you have got the obligatory Zoom bookshelf that's in every single interview. So thank you for that. Just out of interest, and I didn't prepare you for this, what's on your bookshelf?
What's on my bookshelf? Okay, so on the top shelf, you've got everything from some books about the last Tommy, Harry Patch's book, and some books about the Battle of Britain.
Okay.
I've also got my collection of travel books. I've been very fortunate alongside my normal teaching. I've led a number of World Challenge expeditions.
Okay.
So I've got the book when we took a group to China. Subsequent group did a Gold Duke of Edinburgh expedition in New Zealand, and then the final one was to Venezuela.
Amazing.
I've got my Lonely Planet guides and my diaries from those trips.
Amazing. So 2 questions. Where's the favourite place you've been so far, and where else is on your list?
Favourite place is Kaikoura in New Zealand, which is where you can go out on a boat and swim with the wild dusky dolphins if they find you interesting enough. And also you can be taken out and get the opportunity of seeing albatross, which of course, on land you've got no chance. But incredible little town where you can see, you've got the ocean and then mountains in the background. Places on the list, we recently watched a great programme with James May in Japan.
Yeah.
So not somewhere I've always been aware of as being very interesting, but having watched his experience in Japan, having been lucky enough to go to China myself, that's maybe one of our sort of retirement goals.
Well, it's funny. This time last year, I was in Japan, and it was an absolutely amazing place. Certainly one worth exploring. When we can actually travel again, right? Okay, so I know that you were not lucky. You were awarded with a award last year. What was it like to get that award?
Yeah, very exciting and incredibly rewarding. I was nominated by 2 people. So my husband put me forward, and then around about the same time when I presume the competition was launched again, one of my ex-students actually got in touch and said, just to let you know, I've put your name forward for this.
Okay.
Which was really lovely. So I was asked to provide a statement about what I do and a taster of my approach to financial education in one email, along with a submission of some examples of tasks and but it was great. It was great to find out that I'd been shortlisted, and therefore myself and my husband were invited to the MoneyWise Customer Service Awards, where the result was announced.
Okay.
So it was a fantastic black tie dinner in London, and it was announced that I'd won the overall secondary teacher prize and a cheque for £5,000 for my school.
Oh, very nice. Amazing. What did they spend the money on?
Well, I'm hoping to use it over a number of years. So rather than some previous prize winners have used it to invest in sort of items like laptops or tablets, I'm hoping to use it over a number of years to sort of buy in resources and other sort of experiences for students sort of across the school. So not just the students who might be studying financial education. Lots of them they're suggesting we all go on free trips. But I'm hoping to sort of use it to also get some exposure to financial education for some of the younger students.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. So I'm giving you a magic wand for the next question. You've got this magic wand. What would you change about education generally? And I know this is a big question, and financial education more specifically in the UK.
It's actually really interesting because I was asked this very question by an Ofsted inspector just recently.
Okay.
Alongside a panel of about 8 of my colleagues at the end of a staff panel as part of.
Can I just say one thing?
All 8 of us straight away said it's about more money, it's about more resources, because of course it's been a really challenging time with the changes in funding from government, and school budgets have been hugely stretched in loads of different ways. So the main magic wand I think that most teachers would say right now would be more funding.
Yeah. Can I just say that I didn't want this interview to be anything like an Ofsted inspection. Hopefully, it's a little more friendly than that.
Absolutely. No, I can't complain about that staff panel. It wasn't a stressful process.
Good.
In terms of financial education, I'd like to see the subject recognised more significantly by the Department for Education and by Ofsted, so that rather than it being an add-on or a context for maths or part of PSHE, it actually becomes a recognised subject in its own right, and therefore we see more students having the opportunity of getting financial education as part of their school journey.
Yeah, cool. No, that's an amazing. I'm ready to learn, because the next question is, what tips would you share with parents homeschooling at the minute?
So that's something that's also new to me too, with my lovely 8-year-old at home at the moment. But one of the things I'd say is I think that it's actually okay for people to find a rhythm for how the day's going to work for you and your child, your children, considering both of your work commitments and their school commitments.
Yeah.
I also think it can be quite helpful, and particularly maybe with older students, to involve them in some of the planning and how things are going to work. Because if you sort of talked about when they might complete their work and what that might look like, it can just avoid maybe some of the roadblocks where they're feeling like they're having to do what you're telling them to do.
Okay.
And I think the other thing that's really challenging, we're talking a lot about homeschooling at the moment, but of course parents are assisting with homeschooling, but also adjusting to working at the same time, working remotely for the first time. So I think it's a really challenging time.
Yeah, I mean, your daughter's 8, right?
Yeah.
So Sophie, I've got 2 girls, Charlotte's 16 and Sophie's 8. And I think the greatest challenge is just keeping her focused in an environment that she's not used to. So how do you manage that? What do you do to your environment?
In some ways, it's sort of adjusting our expectations that I don't think at home we can replicate the school day.
Yeah.
I think learning at home, like you say, we're working in a different environment, and I think it's okay to, rather than thinking, right, I've got to replicate exactly what goes on at school, to sort of just make it into something that works for you. Because of course, in school, you've got some of the things that the routines the children will be doing. You've got 30 or so children doing these things that takes time. So I think we can start to think, oh gosh, we've got to sit down and do all these hours of study. But actually, there are some parts of the school day, moving into the different routines and transitions. So, if there's a bit of downtime that happens at home, I think sometimes we as parents can start to sort of beat ourselves up about it. But I think that downtime with the extraordinary situation we're dealing with can be quite important.
Okay. One thing I have is a newfound respect for teachers and teaching, because I don't think I'm fit for being a teacher, to be honest. So thank you for the work you do.
I've had a few people make similar comments, and sometimes when people say that when with the children they've got at home, and I sort of say, well, now multiply that by 30.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose what's interesting? The conversation I had with Sophie the other day was, right, let's try and get some work done, and let's try and focus on making sure that we're sort of getting, because the schools, I don't know about your daughter, but Sophie's school's sending packs for us to complete with the kids. And weirdly, she said, Dad, I'm used to everybody else doing it, and that motivates, like that encourages me to do it. But in this environment, she hasn't got her friends to like work with. So yeah, it is weird for the kids as well, isn't it? So,
and we also do a lot of sort of peer work and sort of pair sharing work, and of course, those discussions and those opportunities aren't possible at the moment. So I think it's also understanding that our children are sort of missing out on those areas. Or one of the things that's worked really well for us is using things like Zoom. So Jessie will sometimes dial into Zoom at the same time as one of her friends, and they'll choose one of the pieces of work that's been set for them that day,
and then work on it together.
And they'll both be working on their newspaper report or diary entry, but they can have those conversations that would happen in class. So I think if parents are happy to let students sort of get
together,
get the technology working for them, it can be a really good idea to try and replicate some of the things that they're missing because they're not in class.
You know what? We haven't done that. That is an amazing tip. Thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna speak to the real boss, Cassie, and make sure that we give that a go. So, if parents want to focus on teaching their kids more about money at this time, how do we? What things can we do to help parents do that?
I mean, speaking from my own experience as a parent, some of these things that are a bit hard to do at the moment, where of course going out and spending money in shops is a little bit out of bounds at the moment. But I think one of the things that's really helpful is to give children the opportunity to make their own decisions regarding their money. So although maybe they can't go out and be spending directly at the moment, there can be opportunities that they can do some maybe planning for things they might like to do when the lockdown's been eased. And one of the things I think can give some really great learning experiences is when children get the opportunity to make their own decisions with money, even though maybe it can be quite painful for us to watch as parents, because something that maybe we don't think is such a great idea. But I think it can be really important for children to have their own experience of ideally planning before they do it, but making some decisions with money, and then experiencing maybe a little bit of buyer's remorse, or thinking about maybe what different decisions they would have made, because that can inform them later on.
I mean, it's an interesting one, because I tried, knowing that you were coming on and thinking that I'd better like sort of try it and have an attempt at financial education with Sophie. We did this thing yesterday. I don't know about your 8-year-old, but Sophie's obsessed with YouTube at the minute. And we did a thing about
So you've got to label 3 aspirations how much you think it's going to cost you, and the age at which you think that's going to happen. And it's incredible how passionate some 14-year-olds can be about the age that they're having children. And this discussion can get really quite heated about, whether you should have your children in your 20s, your 30s, and whether you're going to afford a house or not. And just that simple task of say, drawing out that life cycle and getting them to think about, it also brings in some nice discussions about priorities. But like you say, the insights that some of them can have can be incredible.
What's the comment you've had from a student that surprised you the most?
Sorry, say that one again, Chris.
What's the comment you've had from a student, like either the insight or a comment that's made that's either surprised you the most or made you laugh the most?
Possibly one that surprised me and maybe been the most poignant. And having done this task quite a number of times, and normally when we talk about aspirations, they talk about buying a house or getting that sports car and these things. But there was one particular where an 18-year-old lad, as quick as a flash, it was that he wanted 4 children. And it was just struck me that there was not the house and the flashy car. His sort of top priority at 18 years of age was putting in when he'd had his 4 children.
Okay, that's interesting. I don't know if that had ever been my time with 4 kids. I mean, two's amazing, but four might be a bit too much. Why don't you think there's a more holistic, robust approach in the UK to teaching financial education in schools?
Unfortunately, I believe that's due to the way the current inspection framework and the current government expectations that means it's not highly prioritised. So, like we said sort of at the beginning of the interview, the amount of financial education that's done within a school comes down to the individual passion and determination of teachers and the support of senior leaders in a school.
Yeah.
And that will determine the amount of financial education that's currently on offer. Until it's recognised more highly by government, until it appears as an aspect that Ofsted would be looking for, it's unlikely that it's going to change from this current situation where we've got really a bit of a lottery in terms of the opportunities for financial education that students are offered. I mean, in my experience, I'd say there's a growing appetite for students to learn about this vital area. But of course, with that then comes the challenge of schools making sure that they've got the right number of teachers to deliver financial education.
Yeah.
And I strongly believe it's a brilliant subject to teach, but not all teachers agree. And some people can feel a little bit concerned about delivering the subject, which I find quite interesting. Although I believe that anyone that's enthusiastic about sharing their experience of money with students can deliver courses such as those from the LIBF because of the quality of resources that are provided, and also the growing community of teachers that are working in this area who network and share resources.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is as well, I mean, interestingly, we sponsored a classroom of kids through the LIBF online course. So we paid for a classroom of kids last year to go through that course at the school close to us. And I got the absolute honour, privilege, but also one of the most terrifying experiences of my life to stand in front of a classroom of, I think it was 13 and 14-year-olds. And Helen, just give me adults any day of the week. Just please. Like I can speak to a room full of adults all day, but it was quite a scary experience. But one actually, I did part of the session on scams and making sure that kids were aware of what to look out for in terms of avoiding financial scams. The bit when I sort of know when a presentation of mine's gone down well, because typically you get questions at the end, right? You get people putting their hand up. And on this particular, there was a room full of 20 odd kids. On this particular presentation, there was tumbleweed, and I thought I've done the worst job ever. I mean, literally, it was just like no. But then I sort of stuck around. The kids were working on the online course, and they were asking me questions individually after I'd sort of done it. And I think a lot of the reason behind not putting the hand up is that not wanting to put your head above the parapet sort of thing and ask questions that can be quite a sensitive subject, because culturally particularly in the UK, we don't talk about money, do we?
No, I mean, that's one of the things that I do sort of coach my students on, because again, coming back to what we were saying about, you know, children learning about money, young people learning about money, when I start off teaching the courses, I do talk to the students about, it's great if they can go home and sort of explore with the people around them, if they've got people who might be happy to talk to them about the theory that they're learning and how it's applied in their personal lives. But I always use the analogy, you know, imagine you're sitting down for Sunday lunch, your parents have got some friends over. If you turn around to one of them and said, how much did you earn last year? How would that question be perceived?
Yeah.
And, you know, 100% of the time it's, oh, that's really rude, you don't ask about that. And so I say to them that, you know, yes, that's absolutely right. I said, but sometimes people's perceptions about talking about money, not just about the amount of income, but talking about money generally is seen as something that we don't do.
Yeah.
So it's just about, you know, exploring and being sensitive and finding those individuals who might be happy to talk to them about their experiences. But then again, when we start looking at areas like, you know, redundancy or, you know, insurance where claims may need to have been made, I'm always sort of coaching them about the fact that, you know, again, we're talking about areas that can be potentially quite sensitive.
Yeah.
But again, equally, hopefully working towards changing that. And it's always great at parents' evenings where, you know, just recently, one of my year 11 parents was saying that they were having a discussion between, you know, mum and dad, think about mortgages. And all of a sudden, my students sort of piped up and wanted to join in the conversation, which is great.
Yeah, no, amazing stuff. It's interesting, as you say, that I think people assume that when you need to talk about money, it needs to be a really direct question. But talking about the concepts around it is as important, isn't it? Understanding those particular concepts. Where can people find you if they want to find out a little bit more about your work?
So I mainly use Twitter as the platform for all things financial education. So I'd be happy to say for anyone to follow me or contact me via Twitter if they might like to.
And you are quite robust in your debate about financial education, aren't you? Have you like? When I see you on Twitter, you are sort of banging down doors in terms of the importance of financial education. Have you had any contentious people come back to you and disagree?
I don't think so. I think that the main issue is, of course, the you know, school time and school
priority. Yeah.
Places, and of course, schools have a very high number of priorities of things that we need to cover for our young people, and you know, all of those areas can be very sort of, you know, passionately
argued
being important. I suppose where I'm coming from is that I think that, you know, financial education is equally as important because of the impact it can have on young people's future. So I think that's where my sort of robust campaigning comes for it to have wider recognition within our education system. But equally, you know, with working within a school and knowing how busy the curriculum and time is of all the areas that we've got to support our young people with, it is a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. I know I've learned loads, so appreciate that. Hope our audience have enjoyed it too. Certainly we've had comments talking about money being quite a tender subject and one that a lot of people find it difficult to talk about, and hopefully by sharing some of these conversations, talking about some ideas and highlighting the importance for people to potentially understand more, we're doing our little bit, Helen, to support people having more conversation like that. I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for this week's Cervello Live. We're back next Thursday, where we'll be talking all things employer and employee benefits with our friend and a member of the Cervello team, Charlie Goodman, is coming on next week to help us understand how to reward, recruit and retain really good people in our business by looking at how we reward them. So hopefully you'll join us for next week's Cervello Live. Hopefully you enjoyed today. I certainly learned a lot, and we'll see you next time.